Well, what do you do? I would really, genuinely love to hear from you. And I tried to do a YouTube live. And you got to get it set up for whatever reason. I didn't have the connection. I just couldn't get it done. But I wanted to have like a back and forth and truly hear what your ideas are. Now, what I'm talking about, now I would have called Sean Shelby today. I would have gotten us the answer. We could go back and forth and I could come in and tell you what the actual answer is. I didn't want to bug him on a Sunday. So I will do it tomorrow. I will actually call him and find out what is the process and what do you do. What I'm referring to, in case I buried my lead here, Max Holloway, what now? What next? And we've just never been in this spot, right? I mean, there's not really a handbook that you have to turn to. Sport's been around 20 years. Like any other industry, there becomes industry standards. There becomes policies. There becomes an understanding, and you can start to predict the future based on the past. Fine. We have never been in this spot. You could go back to 1993. You cannot give me an example of a guy as clearly ahead of the field as Max Holloway, who's had the opportunity 3 times. This has never happened. Like, on one hand, I know the basic school of thought, and it was even my school of thought. You've heard me say it if you're a follower, that Max will not get an opportunity to fight for the world championship again at 145 pounds as long as Volkanovski has the belt. Okay, but that just can't be true forever, because take a look at this. I mean, just to add to the formula here, okay? Just to add to the puzzle. Yair Rodriguez, a lot of you forget that Max and Yair fought. Many of you forget that. And Yair was in the spot that Max is now in, where Yair lost. And he had to climb it back up. And not only did Yair find a way to do it, Yair became a champion. And you could say whatever you want about Intrum. I am as competitive as anybody that I know. Don't believe in the participation trophy. I'm one of those rough guys. Intrum counts. I don't care what you put in front of world champion. I do not care the word that you put in front of it. If it ends with world champion, you're the world champion. And Yair was able to do that. Yair was able to do that. A guy that Max beat was able to have an opportunity that Max himself can't have. Because he's already had it 3 times. Okay, great. I mean, we kind of understand that, right? We like parity. We get the whole thing. But now you've got a guy in Max who's beaten Rodriguez, who's beaten the reigning interim champion. The interim champion not only identifies the number 1 contender, the interim champion very clearly signifies the absolute best aside from one guy, and we still have a question, so we're going to hold that bout. Max beat him. So Max, by proxy of that definition, has proven to be the absolute best of the rest. And now he just needs the opportunity with Volk. And then once I get you there, that's when we start to unpack Max and Volk. Because that's a mess within itself. I thought that Max beat him. The night that Volk took the strap, I thought Max won. I was working with ESPN. I'm with a group of experts in the sport, and we all looked around, hey, who do you think won? Everybody there thought, and this is 8, 10, 12 people, but we all thought that Max won, and we thought it was really close. And we weren't bullish, and we weren't guaranteeing it. Nobody was handing out high fives to the guy that bet on Max, but we did think that Max won. Now, fast forward to the rematch in Abu Dhabi. That one, I am bullish. That one was not a question. That one, Max won 3 rounds to 2 very clearly. I believe. This is Chael's opinion. It's not the way that ended. And I'm not the only one that had that opinion, which is the entire reason they made match 3, but that's where the problem comes. That was not competitive. And Volk had pulled away, and history was not on Volk's side. History was on the side of the younger fighter. And Volk defied that. So we don't have any question of how good Volkanovski is, right? It's just a question of, do we start having the conversation greatest of all time? Which might be exactly what he is. That's before you get into the 55. That's before you get, it sounds like he's going back to 55. I mean, he's got his hands full here with Rodriguez, so one thing at a time. I'm just sharing with you. Sometimes a guy like Max goes out and gets a win, and not only reflects positively on Max, it also reflects on guys that have beaten Max, which in this case is Volkanovski. I mean, right? Volkanovski's stock went up last night. Ariel Helwani even tweeted that out. He said it kind of makes you sit back and wonder just how good is Volkanovski. Yeah, boom, Ariel, you're right. You're fully correct on that. But let's stay on Max. Because what are we going to do? Max has talked about going up to 55. As a matter of fact, Max has gone up to 55. Does Max go up to 55? He's going to just become one of the boys up there, right? He's not going to be the number one contender. So he's going to have some good and meaningful work that he's going to have to do, but there is at least a path to a title fight. Or does he stay at 45? And then we got a job to do here, which is to find him a path to a title fight. And I don't know that that has to just be wait out Volkanovski. I know that that's a strategy. I'm well aware if you can hang in there and get somebody to quit, get somebody to move on or move up. I get that. But what I'm asking you, absent of that, what is the answer here? What is Sean Shelby going to do? Are we just never going to give Max that opportunity? If we never give Max that opportunity, then we're going to continue to use Max in the role that we had him last night. Which is great. Everybody becomes a stepping stone at some point. Everybody becomes the guy that if you beat, you become the number one contender. We all understand that. It just is wildly obvious that Max is nowhere near that. Max could be 7 years away from that. He could be the better part of a decade away. I mean, he's not even close to losing fights. And Arnold Allen is awesome. Arnold Allen also brought his best. I was so impressed with Allen, because there wasn't just a physical battle. You also have a mental battle when you're in there against a well-known commodity, a world champion, somebody that you admired somewhere throughout your career. And Allen passed all of those tests. That was his best versus Max's best. We saw the better fighter. No problem with that, right? But what do? We've never been in the spot. So before you get lazy, and before you say, well, he's already had the opportunity, he had it again, and he had it again, before we do that, we've never been in this spot. We've never had somebody this clear and this driven and this young who is this willing to take on anybody and reclaim that. Nobody calls out Max. Don't forget that. Arnold Allen did not call out Max. This match got made other ways. Got made with the idea in the matchmaker's office, and they call both athletes. That's fine. That's how most matches are made. I'm just sharing for you. That's how feared and respected Max is. Nobody's going to call him out now. He's clearly the number one contender. Go beat him. You fight for the strap. Won't even be a conversation. You don't even have to get a promise ahead of time. If you beat Max, you will be fighting for the belt, but nobody's even called for the fight. So what do you do with a guy like that? And how long do you do it for? I think we need to start revising this idea that just because he had the chance, even if he had it times 3, that he can't earn his way back, particularly when he is so clearly the best of the field.